All right, we're back. Sorry about that, everybody. Go ahead. So Rod was talking about going to the Edmonton Oilers games and going to the Edmonton Eskimo games when he was a kid.
Well, I remember and that was the time that the Oilers were winning the Stanley Cup. The Eskimos, you watching Warren Moon as a quarterback, hucking the ball and winning the Grey Cup. Like these are my memories. I was a CFL big guy, like huge. CFL and NHL were my favorite sports, and baseball. Baseball in Edmonton, they had a team called the Edmonton Trappers, and it was a farm team of that I think is what. And I got to watch. Devon White, big baseball player, used to play for the Trappers. You used to see all these guys before they made it to the big leagues playing for the Edmonton Trappers. I remember Dad taking me. We go sit there in a lawn chair when it was first 500 people through the gate. You get a free jersey, and Dad would be there. We'd have lawn chairs sitting there at the front gate. 5 hours. I'm like, we're the only one here, Dad. You think we're a little early? So my love of sports, I grew up with it. Saturday nights was hockey. We'd sit around, me and my dad, watching hockey, or we'd be at the game. We'd go to golf tournaments. Gretzky would put on a golf tournament. Dad would take me to those. Autograph signing sessions when I was younger. Got me all hooked on sports. And it was a way to get away where you could just forget the world for 3 hours and get enthralled in the game.
So for me, it's like everyone had kind of like that where you went from like this is something to enjoy to something that this is going to be part of my life forever. So for me, that event for me happened when I played pee wee football, and I was like in elementary school, probably in like fourth grade, and maybe I was in fifth grade, and our team went undefeated in Miami. Our pee wee football team, we went undefeated. We won the championship. We did all that stuff, and because of that, we got to play at halftime of a Miami Florida State game. This was one of the like kind of a throw-in thing, you know. I mean, it's like never even thought about anything at the time, and I had never really, though we had seen the '72 Dolphins and all that stuff had already happened. Um, it was a big moment for us because we had a good team. We'd won we'd won every game. We'd swept the table. And we had guys that went on later. Even though it was much later on, went on and had great college careers, and also guys that went on to be on the U.S. Olympic soccer team. Other things than that. We had sons of NFL football players on our team. We had a pretty stacked team back then. But basically, um, I remember, I remember, I remember a play during our game where our running back broke away for a run, and to hear the roar of the Orange Bowl Stadium, and I was like, "This is really cool." And as I got older, I realized that professional sports was probably not in my future, but it didn't mean that I couldn't be involved in sports. So as I went on all the way through, as I got older and older, I only became more involved in sports, and I only became instead of just going to the college football games and the NFL football games. Now I was going to the high school games, and beyond the high school games, I started going to the JV games. I watch all the games, and once again, I was in an area of the world and of the country where the best players were. So when these players were going to the NFL and were playing in college, I had seen them at the JV level, in high school. So I knew who the good players were, and it's like that knowledge, all of a sudden, most of the world doesn't know who these guys are. What I figured out is that most of the world doesn't know who these players are. I know their parents, because I'm the only one at the game, right? And all of a sudden, this is translating into where people are are seeing me as a resource, right? They see me as a resource. It's like, wow, how did you know that? How did you know that? You know, because I've seen him play since he was 15 years old, and he's been doing the same thing the whole time. You know, no matter what level he's been at. You know, and you know sometimes you see guys that are great at that age, and most of the time when you see a player at that age that doesn't make it at the next level, especially in football and in baseball, you see it too. But in football, especially, is because they were overplayed at that young age, where they just gave it all, you know, 110% all the time, and their body just didn't hold up. So it's like guys that were injured before it even ever happened for them. And you see it in baseball too, guys that throw out their arm before it ever even happens for them. So Chris, when was that where you went from fan and interested? What was that? For me, it was that Miami Florida State game, and it was that one play where our running back took it around the end, and he was gone, you know, down the Orange Bowl field on the old AstroTurf field, you know, gone. And the stadium is going crazy. I mean, 76,000 people. We're going from playing in front of our parents to playing in front of 76,000. It was insanity.
Well, for me, I mean, mine's not Orange Bowl level, but you know, growing up, there was a lot of bullying and stuff, so I didn't have many friends. But then once I started getting to high school, I joined the football team, and I did something that I'd never done throughout elementary school. But once I got into high school, I was like, you know what, a little bit of a bigger guy, maybe I can play offensive line. So grade 10 rolled around, and then I was benched for a little bit, and then grade 11 rolled around, and I was starter from day one. And I remember in grade 11, I had my first Friday Night Lights game, and it was against, I'll always remember, it was Lauren. I was playing for Meadowvale, and we were playing Lauren Park, and Lauren Park was like the rich kid school, for the lack of a better term. Like, everybody hated them because they had the nice field, they had the nice school, they were the first one in the region to have a scoreboard, you know, this, that, and the other. And I remember just going out, and I was like, I thought this was something that only happened on TV. I didn't think this was something that was actually legitimate, like up here. And then you see like our you know, local cable company coming out to record the game and televise the game, and I remember, you know, playing that game, having a blast, even though we lost. Funny enough, I'm pretty sure I lined up against Brent Urban, DN for the Bears now. We were in the same year. So, but yeah, I think that was probably the moment that did it for me.
How about you, Rod?
For me,
like, if you could, it's hard to nail it down because it's like, you know, obviously, you know, from your story, from what you told us, it's like, saw Gretzky, saw all these things, you know, was there a game, like, you know, where like something happened, all of a sudden the switch just went on, you know?
For me, it was younger. I've always loved sports even from a little kid. Dad would take me to all these games and stuff. And in '87 when the Oilers and thing, but what really got me hooked, I'm gonna say I was about 17, and it was in '93. I was in Hamilton for a cooking competition in high school, for Canadian skills competition they called it. And I had won in Alberta, so I got sent to Hamilton to compete against all the other Canadian cooking people at a competition in Hamilton. Well, Game 7, Leafs versus the Kings, was going on at Maple Leaf Gardens that night. And you're telling me I'm 20 minutes away, and I got to go watch this. I'm like, I don't care how I can do it, but I'm going to watch this. I told the teacher that was the chaperone, and I said, hey, I'm going to the Leafs game. And she's like, well, I don't want you to go alone. Well, find someone to take with you. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then that should be pretty easy. It should be easy to find somebody else to take with me. Well, nobody wanted to go with me. Well, I wasn't getting stopped. So I hopped on the GO train, and I went to the game. I bought a ticket from the scalper, and I went and watched the game by myself. Game 7, Leafs. Kings. Winner goes to the Stanley Cup against Montreal. That did it for. I was hooked. Never forget that experience. Being actually in Maple Leaf Gardens, watching the Maple Leafs. That was probably the first that I really became a Leaf fan too. Because before that, I was an Oilers fan.
So what's the best game that you ever went to live? Like what are the best games? Like if you could name your top 5 games or like, a game from a different sport, what are your top 3, 4, like what are the big ones? Like when you say, man, I was at that game, what are your games? Like Steve Monahan always says, Game 6, 1987. It's like, it's like,
For me, it was that one right there. Game 7, Maple Leaf Garden, Leafs versus Gretzky. And of course, Gretzky wins. Another one. It had to be Grey Cups. See, I was big into the CFL, watching the Eskimos win a Grey Cup at home. Nothing beats that.
yeah.
Watching
When your home team wins the championship and you're at the game,
in old Rexall Place, and you're at the game,
that's the best. That is the best. And mine is similar. For me, January 1st, 1984, Miami versus Nebraska, 19.5-point underdogs, and Bernie Kosar leads the Hurricanes to the win. Kenny Calhoun knocks down the 2-point conversion, and Miami is national champions. Like out of nowhere, preseason, unranked, number 4 ranked heading into New Year's Day. Like all these events have to happen for them to, even have a chance. And the chips are all falling into place all day long. And, Georgia and Texas tie, and Michigan loses, and everything, everything that needs to happen happens. And then all of a sudden, it's Miami and Nebraska at the Orange Bowl, of all places, where we'd seen it all before. And, 19.5-point dogs. And the weird thing about that game is that I went with, same guys that I'd gone to games with for years and years and years, first with our parents and then just us. And, there was never a doubt in any of our mind that we were going to win that game. Like, we never thought of ourselves as 19.5-point dogs in that game. We knew we were going to win that game. This was our night, And we made a bet before the game, and this is one of my favorite things in all of sports is we made a bet before the game that after we win, we didn't say if we win, we said after we win, the winner, one of us, whoever can pat Howard Schnellenberger, who was the coach of the Hurricanes, and whoever pats Howard Schnellenberger on the back after the game, everybody has to buy that person a case of beer. So we're driving back. We all there's Kenny Calhoun knocks down the pass. There's 30 seconds left to go in the game, and we're all sitting together. We're in the Nebraska section, and we're all looking at each other. And all of a sudden, it's like they line up for the kickoff, and it's boom. Game on. The dead sprint for the field. They're surrounding the field with German shepherds, with police officers and stuff, right? So it's going to be crazy down there, right? It's going to be bedlam because this is going to happen, right? Miami's going to win the national championship. It's going to be at home. It's going to be the biggest upset in the history of the world. It's like it's all happening, and then all of a sudden, they're counting it down. We're all on the field, right? It's just bedlam. We're the first ones down there, but everybody in the stadium is on the field. So, the players are high-fiving everyone. It's an amazing thing. They're playing that song. It's a miracle, right? It's a miracle, a true blue fest, right? Miracle. And because it is, 19.5-point dogs. We're national champions. We've come from nowhere, right? From absolutely nowhere. And so we finally all find each other under the goalpost, right? They don't tear down the goalpost, and find each other down the field under the goalpost. And it's like, my friend Mike is like, I won. You guys all owe me a case of beer. And we're like, what? You know, how could you? Because I had gotten there to Schnellenberger, and he's surrounded by state troopers, right? So there's no way to do it. And my friend Mike is like, I got him when he shook hands with Tom Osborne. I patted him on the back and said, and held up, because they gave out those big foam #1 hands. He held up the hand and said, you know, he goes, I patted him on the back, and I was yelling in his ear, we're #1, we're #1, because everyone's, you know, chant, we're #1, right? You know? And so no one believes him, right? No one believes it. So the next morning on the front page of the Miami Herald is Howard Schnellenberger shaking hands with Tom Osborne, and my friend Mike patting him on the back like this, holding up the big #1 hand. It was absolutely awesome. One of my very, very favorite sports moments, even though I lost the case of beer on that. And it was a night that I'll never forget. And I've been at other national championship nights, you know, that Miami won. I was there when they beat Oklahoma, Jimmy Johnson's national championship, but nothing was ever like that. Chris, do you have a game like that was kind of like your game? You know, it was like, I was at the Kellen Winslow Miami Dolphin game. I was at, you know, the Dan Marino, the one where he broke the touchdown record against the Jets in the Meadowlands. I was at the Throat Slash game at the Meadowlands. I've been at a lot of big games, lots of them. And, you know, I've been at wide right 1, wide right 2, wide right 3, wide left. I've been at all those games. But that, and like what Rod was saying, when they win the championship, it's a whole different level. Chris?
Yeah, for me, a lot of like the game winning moments haven't been happening in Toronto lately, because it's only been the last like 5 or 6 years that our sports scene around here started to get a little bit better. But say a couple games definitely stuck out for me. July 2017, I remember I had gone because the tickets were for my birthday. The Jays beat the Angels with a 7-run 9th inning walk-off grand slam from Steve Pearce. I remember that vividly because I remember getting hit in the head with a bag of popcorn. The MLS Cup that year.
You only get one.
Oh, I only get one?
Yes, you only get one.
Oh.
So, anyways, you know, I said I've been to these other games, but it's like, there's only one. And Rod also, there's only one. So, it's that one moment. So, anyways, this show is kind of like I said, it's kind of all over the place, but this is who we are and why we're here. And it's just things that, you know, I always want to talk about, and, you know, I always get sidetracked. I talk about these things all the time anyway, but, you know, the last thing that I really want to say is, if you notice, all of our stories, right, all of our big moment, these all happen with the teams that we're at the end of the day, we're fans, right? It's like, we love betting on sports. We love all that stuff. And, you know, we're going to talk about betting on sports more tomorrow and, you know, beyond. We got plenty of time to talk about betting on sports, and, you know, why we bet on sports is going to be tomorrow's topic. But the thing that I really can't emphasize enough, and I know a lot of people, they ask me, and I touched on this before, how do you get involved in this? You know, how do you get involved in doing sports for a living and this? And some people are just, you know, they don't even ask. They're just jealous, right? These are the haters, right? It's like, Mitch gets to talk about sports and give out picks. It's like, he got a game wrong. He's a scam. You know, it's like, you know, why do they let this guy go on? He's a scam. It's like, yes, we're giving away free picks, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do a live show every day, 365 days a year with no excuses, and writing, you know, 2,600 articles a month of free content on our website. Yes, it's all a big scam. It's free because it's free, right? I'm missing that part. But I think that at the end of the day, when you hear this, right, every story that we heard here was about our team. And I think that is the common bond. And that's why what differentiates us as sports fans then from some of these other sites and some of these other people out there. It's like, I think that you guys are smart enough. You know who's going through the motions for the money. And you know who's doing it because they love it and because they believe at it. And I believe in it. And I think that's part of what makes us better at it than almost everybody else out there. There are other people that are good. But it's like, it's hard for somebody to get excited about that Kansas City Chiefs win if they didn't grow up a Chiefs fan. You know? It's not the same. You can be excited and you can be a fan. You could say, I knew they were going to win. And you could bet 10 grand on them and be excited about it. And you could do all those things. But there's nothing like being a fan of that team and then winning. You know, because when I first started, it used to be called the College Football Place. So I'm just some guy that just started a website, right, at the time. But, so, you know, why was I accepted to be on, you know, why all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, right? I'm this guy that's just doing this. Why within my first year of having a website is the LSU radio station asking me to come on as a guest? You know, I'm not an LSU guy, right? Why are they asking me to come on their college football show? Why are they asking me to come on their college basketball show? Why do other places around the country ask me to do things like this? Why is that? Because they know that I know. And it's kind of like an unwritten rule. Why were the Auburn fans mad when one of our writers who no longer works for us, you know, and why did they respect it when I fired the writer? Because he was writing basically things that were inauthentic to the game, you know. Why do they know? Why is the expectation higher of me than it is of like some of these other sites that you could tell they got somebody in India to write their articles for them just to have content so they can index in Google and get, you know, whatever. You know, why is our fan base rabid, you know, while the other fan base is just people that visit the website, right? Why what's the difference? And the difference is that because we don't just attract the sports betting crowd, we also attract the sports crowd. And the sports crowd knows, the college football fans, they know that I know. And what do I know is that every Saturday, I live and die, man, with my team. And it's like, I've been there, you know. I've been there in 120-degree heat. And it's like, in college football, there is no tomorrow. And everyone always said when there was no playoff, right, they should have a playoff. And all college football fans, well, we want a playoff because the polls kind of got in the way at the end of the season. We all know that every Saturday is a playoff, you know. And that is the reality of the situation. And it's like, I live that. And when my team loses, I'm in a bad mood, you know. When, you know, it hurts me personally, you know. And it's like, they know that, you know. And they know it from Baton Rouge. They know it in Washington, right, with the Huskies. They know it, and you know, as bad as things I said about Penn State when they went through their whole thing, which they deserved at the time, and they deserve accolades for coming out of it as well. They know that I know. You know, certain fan bases, they're never going to get it, right? Ohio State, they're just never going to get it, right? They're just mean, right? They're just self-centered, mean, arrogant, all of those things. The bulk of them, not all of them, but just this large core of their fan base is just idiots, right? It's like, I mean, I don't understand it. You know, venomous, right? It's like, it's nothing personal that you're a fan of this team or that team. You could hate my team. It has nothing to do with me personally. These guys, they really think it is, and it's like, it's just ignorance, you know, nothing more. And I'm not, you know, I don't mean to single out the Ohio State fans because I know a lot of my nephews who work who work with us at the site behind the scenes. They both go to Ohio State, so, you know. So, you know, it's just the way that it is. But I'm just saying that's not part of what we are, you know. That's not part of what we are. And to me, it's like you have the other set of fans. And, you know, I call Monahan out on this all the time. And, you know, is that when you don't have a team, there's the defaults, right? You have the defaults. The Yankees, Notre Dame, Dallas Cowboys, right? And these are all Monahan's teams.
I hate those teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly,
because these are the bandwagon teams, right? These are the bandwagon teams. It's like, it's one thing if you're a Golden State Warrior fan for the last 20 years. It's another thing like, I love Curry, you know? It's like, so when if they trade Curry or he doesn't play, you no longer like the Warriors. All of a sudden, you're a Bucks fan. I love the freak. It's like, the same thing. It's like, do I think that Tom Brady's a winner? Yes, but my hatred for the Patriots doesn't allow me to say that he's the greatest of all time. Just like a Patriots fan would never say that Dan Marino has the best, quickest release and best, is the best pure passer of all time. They would never say it. It's just they're not allowed to. They might think it. They might say, "Man, that Dan Marino killed us." Whatever. But it's like, for me, it's like, I acted like when Kenyon Drake took the pitch and ran it in for the touchdown. I acted like we had it all the way, right? It's like I said it on the show. We had it all the way. I showed the picture of that they sent me, the Dolphins, right? It's like we had it all the way, and that's kind of like it is part of the being the fan thing. So, Chris, what do you think the difference is? Like, it's that authenticity level, right? Of like being a real fan of a team. And I'm not saying that everybody, a lot of people come from areas of the country where they don't have a team. Like me, for hockey, I didn't come from an area where we had a team. We didn't have a team. So I've bounced, I've bounced from teams, When I was a kid, I liked the Montreal Canadiens because that's all they showed on TV. Ken Dryden, Guy Lafleur, right? It was whatever. Now it's like when I realized, now once I got past 10 years old and I realized, God, how could I possibly root for these guys? Then it moved on to bigger and better things like the Red Wings, and the Blackhawks. And it's like when I lived in Chicago, it was easy for me to adopt the home team as my team because I didn't really have any allegiance to anybody else. I do like the Red Wings, and I know they're rivals with the Blackhawks, but I don't have that, and I'm not going to sit here, and this is how these guys ended up on the show, right? Because I'm not going to sit here and claim to be an expert or anything about hockey at all, right? I don't even have a team. I might be a Blackhawks fan, or, I may be happy when the Blackhawks win. I went to the victory parade. I showed the video back then on the site of me at the parade with Kane, right? Me and Patrick Kane. That's back when he was a real wild man. I think he's probably chilled a little bit since then.
I've seen lots of Blackhawk games. Lots of Blackhawk games against the Oilers because my dad was a Blackhawks fan. He'd go to the Oilers. I'm like, Dad, you can't wear that Blackhawks jersey to the Oilers game. He's like, why not?
Oh yeah,
Blackhawks.
my profile picture on Facebook and in general that I used to use for everywhere used to be me wearing my White Sox shirt in front of the scoreboard at Wrigley. In the bleachers. That was my thing. But Chris, you want to wrap it up, talking about the bandwagon fans a little bit, and what do you think?
You know what? It's I'm okay with both sides of the coin. Like, okay, if you want to start supporting our team, everybody's got to start somewhere. It's not ideal that maybe you don't have much of a case or much credibility if you're joining the Raptors fandom after they win the title. But, I also see the other side where it's just like people are like, well, where were you during the bad times? Where were you during the... Because
it's that pain and suffering. The way that I always see it is that when you're celebrating that victory, it's not, hooray, we won. It's a culmination. Like when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I'm not an Eagles fan, and, they're not my team, but I can understand the elation of the years of pain and suffering that fan base went through for that one moment of joy. And the same thing with the Chiefs, who had won before, but it's been a long time, and when the Dolphins do it, which they eventually will, it's been a long time. It's been a long time, man. Before, it was like they made the playoffs every year, but now it's like it's been a long time. So, you're right, Chris. I mean, everyone's got to start somewhere. If you don't have a team, like I didn't have a team, you got to start somewhere. But it's like, I could hardly, even when the Blackhawks won those championships, I was more excited to stick it in my face that we're friends of the teams that they beat than it was for the, for the actual
Yeah.
Hawks. And I was happy for the city of Chicago because I love Chicago. And, I loved living in Chicago. And I loved being a resident of the city of Chicago. And I loved the Chicago sports fans, except for the Cub fans. And well, the thing is that in Chicago, the Cubs fans, what you find at Wrigley is that half the fans are not even from Chicago, so it's like, it's not really the same, but it's like the Bears and the Blackhawks and the Bulls, I mean, people like the Cubs, and, Sox is a different crowd. But, Rod, what do you think about these bandwagon fans? As long as they're on our bandwagon, I mean, I don't know. That's what we've always said.
In hockey, in hockey, it's different because we're up here in Canada. If you're up here in Canada, and you're a diehard Leafs fan. Okay, well, the Leafs aren't in the playoffs. The only team left is Montreal. So what are you going to do? We want the cup in Canada, so you're going to cheer for Montreal. I'll be a bandwagon jumper and cheer for Montreal as much as I hate Montreal. I'd rather Montreal win it than a States team.
Right? I'm on the other side.
That sort of thing. I don't want Montreal to win it. Just for example, like say Calgary. I hate Calgary. I really hate Calgary. But Calgary was playing Florida in the Stanley Cup. I was rooting for Calgary. I'm not rooting for Florida. So but you got to be a fan of your team and stick by them to get that feeling, like you say, of like if you're just a bandwagon jumper will watch a team lose like hardcore and have that feeling of like, oh, I feel like crap. Because the bandwagon guy always jumps on the winning team.
All right, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. This is a topic that just keeps on giving. We're gonna always allude to these sort of things as we go along, but I think we have some time to just dedicate to these types of topics, and we're gonna continue to do that. Hopefully, we're picking games again real soon. But anyways, thanks guys for joining me. See everyone tomorrow.
You want to do our Sims or Madden games?
Oh yeah, let's do our Sims. What's our games? I'm 9-0 in picking simulated Madden games. I'm the GOAT of Madden.
So the afternoon game, the Dolphins at the Bills. Bills minus 5.5. Over under 51.5.
Oh boy. So this would be Fitzpatrick would be the quarterback for the Dolphins here, or
I'm guessing so. Whoever was the top rated quarterback for Miami is probably going to be the starter.
Who was the other quarter? Oh, it was Josh Rosen. Oh, Bills all day.
Bills, yeah. Bills.
Yeah.
Bills at home.
Yeah, I'm on the Bills too.
What are they, minus what?
Minus 5.
All right.
7 o'clock. The Saints at the Lions. Saints minus 9.5. Over under 57.5.
It's at the Lions?
Yeah.
What's the over?
I still 57.5.
I like the over 57.5 in that one.
I like the Saints. Give me the Saints minus 9.5.
Yeah, I'm on the Saints as well. I just think this is sort of a replica of that Dallas game where the Lions just get run past. And 10 o'clock Eastern, the Chiefs at the Raiders. Kansas City minus 7.5, over under 55.5.
Got to go with the Chiefs here. The Raiders were the team that drafted number 1 overall. So.
Yeah, got to go with the Chiefs there. And then the hockey one, you got the Leafs at the Bruins. Give me the Bruins there. Bruins on the money line.
I'll take the over 5.5 in that one.
I like the puck line on the Bruins there.
Nice plus 155 there.
Yeah, I'll take the Bruins on the puck line. All right. So there we go. See if I can keep my Madden streak alive, or sim game streak alive. Perfect 9-0 to start. I've never seen one game of it, but Hey, whatever it takes. I think even the Lucky Penny won yesterday, right?
Yeah, the penny had the Cardinals. Or sorry, the 49ers.
And the 49ers, yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. All right. Oh, shit.